Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening to the people here on Nevis, those on St. Christopher, those who are listening throughout the Caribbean. Good evening to you. Good evening to friends and family in the United States and Canada, those who are in the United Kingdom, our students studying in Taiwan, and of course those who are studying in Cuba and across the Caribbean. Good evening to you. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Mark Brantley and I am the host for On the Mark this evening, and we are here each week from 8 until 10 for 2 hours of commercial free talk radio. The idea behind this show is really to elevate our discourse in the country, give ourselves an opportunity to engage with each other in a mature and sensible way. There's a tremendous amount happening, but before I get to all that's happening, let me take a moment to wish my dear friend Jean Claxton a very, very happy birthday. I'm told that her birthday is tomorrow, and I want to wish her all the very best on her big day. Jean, we love you, and we hope that you're staying warm in New York. We gathered that there are blizzards and snowstorms all across the northeastern United States, and so we hope that our friends and family, and in fact all who live there, are staying warm. While I'm expressing birthday greetings, let me also express birthday greetings to her grandson, Xavier. Xavier, I'm told you're turning 12 on the 27th, and so happy birthday to you, young man. And you see, your grandma is born on the 26th, you're born on the 27th. Good people, born in February. So happy birthday to you both, and I pray and hope that you have a wonderful time on your birthdays. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a whole lot happening on the island of Nevis in the Federation. Of course, the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting is happening in St. Kitts. Quite an historic event celebrating 50 years of the Caribbean community, and I was privileged to attend last night with a small delegation from the Nevis, my colleagues who were there. We also had in attendance members of the parliamentary opposition in Nevis, and Her Honor Hailita Liburd, who is our Deputy Governor General, she was also in attendance. And we went over and frankly were there because of the occasion and because this is an important historic milestone for our country and our region. It comes at a time when we are really battling and grappling with some big issues, and so it was good to be there. We heard speeches from various leaders, including the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. We had entertainers who came and entertained. We had, of course, the feature address was given by our own Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew. And we had a number of others who spoke, including the new Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Goodwin Friday. I think it was a grand occasion, and it was one of the few occasions when all of the heads from CARICOM were in attendance. And so I think that spoke volumes. Yesterday I had my monthly press conference, and I did commend Prime Minister Drew, because notwithstanding there were some criticisms from the usual quarters about him visiting the various Caribbean countries to meet with their leaders prior to this event, I commended him because I think that in so doing he ensured that this event in St. Kitts was attended by everyone. Quite an historic event. We had obviously from Bahamas in the north to Suriname in the south. They were all there, and so we welcomed them to our shores. I'm hopeful that they're having a good time and that we are able to show off our hospitality. We had delegations from the United Arab Emirates, delegations from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and then today I'm advised that Secretary of State Marco Rubio, U.S. Secretary of State, that he would have arrived, and I've since tonight seen some photographs where he would have had meetings with our Prime Minister and his delegation. I also saw something from the Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Right Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, and they are indicating that they would have met with Secretary of State Rubio. So it is left to be seen what comes out of this. I thought there was some fireworks last night. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, she did not mince words. She said what she believed. She criticized CARICOM over some incidents that she described. She spoke about political interference of political parties and governments governing parties going into countries that are having elections to interfere in their elections, and that doesn't augur well for Caribbean unity. And she had a few other things to say. She praised President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio for in their intervention in Venezuela. She said that Trinidad and Tobago was committed to freedom of movement, but not yet, because she had many illegal immigrants in Trinidad and Tobago that she had to deal with first. And she had a number of different comments to make, but delivered in a style which is classic Kamala. She didn't hold back at all. One aspect that I thought was potentially controversial, it would be for the audience and the listening audience to call in and tell me what they felt. But she did not support Caribbean efforts in relation to Cuba and our support of Cuba. And she did not do so on the stated basis that Cuba does not have free and fair democratic elections. She said that every leader in the room was democratically elected, and how could they then support or have relations with Cuba, which was a dictatorship where there were no free and fair elections. That was her claim. Well, at some point to end the show, we had the performance of King Conris Maynard. Of course, Conris is a member of the cabinet and a minister of government, but we also know that he is quite a famous calypsonian, incredibly gifted at the art of calypso, and he was the grand finale. He did a song, and like a good calypsonian, he changed his lyrics, as many would do. I've seen him do it. I've seen King This and That do it. You know, these gentlemen are they're masters of their craft, and they can change lyrics on a dime. They can extempo. They can do various things. And one of the things that he did was change his lyrics. And I can't recall what the precise lyric was, but he said something to the extent that Trinidad was hugging up with China, while Cuba was somehow being ostracized. And I thought that was interesting because, one, it is true. And so it is true that Trinidad has very close relations with what is equally a dictatorship, equally no free and fair elections, which is mainland China. Those are just the facts. And mainland China is a significant investor in Trinidad and Tobago and a very close friend of Trinidad and Tobago. So on the one hand, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is saying she can't support Cuba because Cuba is a dictatorship, but she's very close with China, which is in the same position as Cuba. So it does create a sort of, I don't want to be harsh in my language, a duality, let me use that word, in terms of her position. Because if you say you're in favor of free and fair elections, then your relationship should be with Taiwan, not with mainland China. Taiwan is a democracy, not mainland China. And so you can't use that as a basis to condemn Cuba when you have very close relations with China. And so that really became a bit of a debate because Congress really responded to her to point out that duality in her position. Now, some have argued that Congress was inappropriate because she is a guest here after all, and as a sitting prime minister, it was not appropriate that a member of the government, the host government, a cabinet member of the host government, would have gone after her in quite that way. But others have argued that that is the art of calypso. And to Congress's credit, and frankly to his in his defense, he did say at the start of his song that he is performing as a calypsonian. Even though he happens to be a member of the cabinet, he is not in any way stating any position on behalf of the government. And we are accustomed to calypso. In fact, Prime Minister Prasad Bisesai is from Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is known for hard-hitting calypso, whether it's Crow, whether it's, there was a guy there called, what's he called, one is a watchman. They had some hard-hitting calypsonians in Trinidad in the day. And she certainly has come in for her share of criticisms. And so the issue was really, is it a big deal, or are we making too much of it? Or is it just kaiso and a response? The response was true. It was accurate. The duality was pointed out, but the question is, was it appropriate to do so? We'll let the callers decide when we open the lines. But as I said, there's a lot been happening. So I had a couple of engagements last evening. I was able to speak very briefly with my good friend Prime Minister Brown, Gaston Brown from Antigua, and also spent some time with my good friend Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt from Dominica. And then this morning I met with a delegation from the Tobago House of Assembly, the chief secretary of that assembly. I suppose he, in our language, he would be referred to as the premier. There, they say he's the chief secretary. But we had an excellent meeting, and I thought the meeting was particularly instructive because it was all about how Tobago can learn from Nevis, how Trinidad and Tobago could learn from the constitutional relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis, and in turn, how St. Kitts and Nevis might be able to learn from Trinidad and Tobago and the constitutional relationship that they have. I thank very much the Chief Secretary for the meeting and for being able to engage. He had a good delegation with him, people who were incredibly knowledgeable, not only of Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago, but knowledgeable of the region. I was very impressed how much research they had done on Nevis and what they knew about Nevis. And certainly it's a matter that they have now extended a formal invitation for me to visit Tobago. They say they would like to continue that conversation, but in a much broader setting. And I've never been to Tobago, so I suspect at some point I may be able to travel to Tobago. They did indicate that this is not the first outreach by them, because when Nevis was led by the Honorable Joseph Parry, that they had invited him as well to Tobago, and that he had in fact come. So Tobago seems to have quite an interest in Nevis, and certainly we have an interest in them as our Caribbean sister, but also to find out how they function in terms of the Tobago House of Assembly, the Tobago, governance in Tobago, internal governance in Tobago. One of the things that they said that I found was interesting is that Tobago gets between, I think they said 4.2 and 6.9% of the national budget must be assigned to Tobago. I thought that was interesting. They said they've never got up to the upper limit. They normally would get about 5%. I hope I'm reporting correctly what I recall. But that is an interesting position, that is how they're funded. But they have very similar issues, very similar concerns, and only 2 members in the National Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. Only 2 members, 2 seats in Tobago, based on what they said to me. So it's a rather interesting setup, and I think that I am curious enough. I think the people of Nevis will be curious enough. So as and when that we can firm things up, I think it will be useful to continue that engagement with Tobago. But I want to extend my warmest greetings to them. Thank them for coming. He's here, notwithstanding he's from Tobago. He's here as part of the delegation of the Honorable Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and he said to me that this was a first, and that this would have been hitherto unheard of. So I thought that was quite interesting, but a rather interesting engagement, and I look forward to learning more and being able to engage further with Tobago. We are small islands. We are in twin island states, both of us, and we are the smaller of the twins, if you will. And so as a consequence of that, we find ourselves having very similar issues, very similar constraints in terms of our own development. And I think that it would augur well for us to speak more and to learn from each other. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. I'm your host, Mark Brantley. I'm simply going through now some recaps of what has transpired in terms of this week at CARICOM. Not this week at CARICOM, the opening ceremony at CARICOM. And so I would have departed St. Kitts this morning to come back in time for our usual cabinet meeting here on Nevis, and then obviously would have engaged with a number of various parties today for a number of meetings that I would have had. Yesterday, I would have held my monthly press conference. I want to take a moment to say how important that press conference is. I know some people look at it and they think that it is something simple. I do not view it as anything simple. As a matter of fact, I view it as one of the signature developments of my administration. I say that because when I campaigned as the leader of the Concerned Citizens Movement, and we took the party into elections for the first time with me as leader in 2017. I recall it was in December of 2017. That time was the first time that that commitment was ever made, that we would have a monthly engagement with the press. Some say the press is the fourth estate. They are the fourth arm of government in that sense. They keep government accountable. And a free and robust and strong press is important in any democracy because their role is to shine light where there is darkness. And so we welcome the press. And I have been the only premier. Nevis has now had 4 people occupy the office of premier. And I've been the only one that has made and kept a commitment to engage with the press every single month. The only month that I do not engage with the press is the month of December each year because that is budget. And we have budget, of course, here in Nevis and budget also on St. Kitts. And I think that that is an important point for me to make. It has been my honor to keep that particular commitment. And members of the press that come, they don't come and come easy. They come and they ask the hard questions. They engage, they follow up. They come back sometimes a month later. They remind me what I said and they follow up. And I think that it augurs well for good governance and transparency. I have marveled sometimes at the oft repeated suggestion that my government is secretive, that my government conceals things from the public. Because I'm prepared to say tonight and to go on record that no government in the history of Nevis, in fact, no government in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis has been as open, as accessible, and as transparent as this administration that I'm privileged to lead. I said it before. I am the 4th premier of Nevis. We've never had a premier who comes every month to the people and to the press. We've never had a premier who engages as I do in terms of social media. In fairness to those who went before me, social media perhaps was not as big a deal, or in the case of Sir Simeon and the Honorable Joseph Parry, social media perhaps did not exist. In the case of the Honorable Vance Emery, social media would not have existed in his earlier tenure either. But I am there, I'm accessible, and I make it a point to try to answer and to engage with people when they engage with me respectfully. I am here on the mark. No leader, none, in the history of Nevis or in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis has made him or herself available every single week on a Wednesday for 2 hours for calls via telephone to come in to ask questions on any matter, as I have done throughout my political life, and certainly that I have done since I have been premier. That's a level of access which is unprecedented in our country. But it doesn't stop there. As the leader of Nevis, I introduced, pioneered, and brought into effect integrity in public life legislation. In fact, the Integrity Commission in Nevis has been functional even longer than the Integrity Commission in St. Kitts. They have functioned, they've been provided with their budget, and again, that has been done under my watch to create even further evidence and further manifestation of our commitment to transparent, open government. All of these matters, when combined, sets us as an administration apart from any that went before, and certainly apart from most that we see in the Caribbean region. Perhaps callers can correct me, but I do not know of any leader in our region who's on radio every single week for 2 hours, who has an appointment that he keeps. I can tell you that I am not at 100%. My energy level is a little low. I'm tired. And on the way here, I felt sometimes if I could not do the show and get an opportunity to rest. But I said, I'm on island. I'm healthy, thank God. And I have an appointment to keep with the people of Nevis, the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and our friends and family throughout the region and our people in the diaspora. And I am here. Many take it for granted. This show does not cost the government, the taxpayers of Nevis, 1 cent. This show, for all the years that it has been on air, even though I am now the Premier, even when I became the Deputy Premier, has been paid for by the law firm of Daniel Brantley. I thank them, because when the history of Nevis is written, it will be said of them that they supported freedom of speech in a tangible way. And that is why I don't take this platform for granted, nor do I take it lightly. I always pay homage and thank Merrick Herbert for his brilliance in coming up with this idea of a radio station for Nevis, Vaughan Radio, because Vaughan remains the radio station for Nevis. It is authentic, it has been there, it has weathered the storms, and it has stood strong. It is indeed the Eastern Caribbean's only powerhouse. Weber Herbert, my friend and brother, who has allowed me the privilege of being here, and I use that word, privilege, because I want people to understand that it is not a right, it is a privilege. And at any point, Vaughan Radio can say to me, we no longer want you on our airwaves. But through the grace of God, they've not yet said that to me, and I've been here for over 2 decades. I thank them for that. And that is why when I open the lines, I said to our people, when you call, I do not need you to agree with me. That's okay. There's something called democracy that we practice here, which allows each and every one of us to have our own viewpoint. But I insist that we be respectful and that we maintain the high standards that this radio station has set and that I have adopted as my own, where only the best will do. On this show, we invite all shades of public opinion. We invite you, if you must, to disagree. But we will not tolerate people who are disagreeable and people who call in and want to insult and carry on. And we've dealt with that over the years. Some call in, shout something, and hang up the phone. This show is about dialogue. It's about discussion. The intention is that it brings out the best in us. It allows us, you and I, and importantly, those who may not call in but who listen, to get information, to get different viewpoints, and to be able, ultimately, to be better off and to be better informed about what is going on in Nevis, in the Federation, in the region, and in the world. That's what we're seeking to do. But going back to the point that I'm making, I consider it a matter of pride that no leader in the past has been able to say the things that I'm saying, that I have made myself accessible. I have ensured that we have transparency. And that is why sometimes when I hear the criticisms, I smile, because I know that those criticisms are not based on fact. Those criticisms that suggest that this government is opaque and we hide things. That is not based on fact at all. The mere fact that I'm here every Wednesday as the leader of government in a forum where there are open lines and calls are not screened here. When the lines open, I have no control over the phone. Sometimes when people get boisterous and they fall below the standards that we have set, I have to signal to whoever is working with me to disconnect that call, because that call falls below the standard that we have set here on the Mark. But I feel proud of that. I feel proud that as someone who came to the people of Nevis and asked you to give me the opportunity to serve you, that I have not become too big, too high and mighty, to come to you regularly and inform you about what is going on, to hear your concerns, to take your questions, and yes, to learn from you, because this is a learning process. It is an ongoing process of learning, of being able to hear from our people, being able to hear their concerns, and being able to meet those concerns in the best way that we can. That I am proud of. That I have done. That I will continue to do. Now I want to speak for a moment about the electoral office in Nevis and the electoral system generally. I have seen the Nevis Reformation Party, the opposition party in Nevis, or one of them, is going to great lengths to vilify the electoral system. They've gone to great lengths to attack the workers at the electoral office, and some of their agents have had the most vile things to say about the hard-working public servants who are there simply trying to do their jobs. There's an old saying that the devil cannot correct sin. Many people take these old sayings for granted, and we do not perhaps sometimes look at them, dissect them, decipher them, and properly understand the import and the impact of what they're seeking to convey. The devil cannot correct sin simply means that the devil is a sinner. And if you are the author of sin, how can you correct sin? And therein lies the problem with the NRP. And that is why I and every right-thinking member of this community, we don't want to hear a thing from NRP about electoral irregularities. If there are irregularities, then we expect them to be dealt with by the authorities. But NRP is not the right messenger. The devil cannot correct sin, because the shame that NRP brought on this island and on this country and on the electoral system cannot be erased. It's a stain on our history. It was after the defeat, the crushing defeat of the NRP in the 2010 federal election, that they set about seeking to ensure by fair means or foul that they were returned to the Nevis Island Assembly in the Nevis Island elections, which was slated for 2011. They went into Cane Garden, and under the ruse that there was some government program, they went from house to house taking down the names of people living in Cane Garden. Why? Because Cane Garden was a predominantly Guyanese and Indo-Guyanese community, and they had determined that that community was not in favor of the NRP. Imagine government officials knocking on your door, telling you that there's some program and they're doing surveys, and you giving your name. Yes, my name is Mark Brantley. And then them taking those names and going to the electoral office and using the people that they had in the electoral office to simply remove those names from the voters list. I can never forget on that election day in 2011 that I went to vote in Cox. And in that line in Cox, you had NRP supporters and voters jeering and laughing at fellow Nivisions who had found themselves with a valid voter's ID, but their names removed from the voters list. So when they went in to vote, they presented a valid voter's ID and were told by the clerks, "We are sorry, your name does not appear on the voters list for this district." Many moved around the constituency from polling division to polling division, trying to figure out if by some miracle their name had been moved from one division to the other, only to find out that their name had not been moved from any division to another. Their names had simply been summarily removed from the voters list. In the great parish of St. John's, the constituency of Nevis 2, some 203 persons were removed from the voters list in that fashion. 203. In Charlestown, people were removed. In St. James, people were removed. And I want to emphasize, they removed voters in a calculated way in what are the battleground constituencies. The battleground constituencies. St. John's was a battleground. The sheriff had won the by-election in 2007 at the federal level. The sheriff came back and won the federal election in 2010. And the NRP knew that they were unpopular. And so they said, if we can't win it, we're going to thief it. It's as simple as that. And they conspired with officials to remove known CCM supporters from the voters list. 203. I can never forget that number. In St. John's alone. Another set in town. Another set in St. James. They never removed anybody in St. Thomas's. That has been an NRP stronghold. It was back then. They didn't remove anybody in St. George. That has always been a CCM stronghold. They focus on the three seats that are usually hotly contested. St. John's, St. Paul's, and St. James. Willful, wicked, and completely illegal. That's what they did. When the votes were tallied, I went into the last box in Cox, well ahead of Hensley Daniel. I got a call that night from somebody who I see now say he's NRP. Maybe he forgot. But at the time he was CCM, or so he claimed to be. And he called me and he said to me, "We have a new government. You have won your seat." He said, "You have won by either 18 or 21 votes, depending on the count," because he, then a senior police officer, and another officer were counting together. And I said to my family, praise be to God, we've won. And I said that because that same individual had called me after every single box had been counted, and he had not been wrong once. All night he was correct. So when he called and said I had won, the tally was 18 or 21, because he got 18 and his other officer had 21, but there was no question that I had won. And then as I am going to my car and my family members are loading into the cars so we could go down to CCM headquarters, my phone rang. And on the phone was someone whom I can only now describe as Judas Iscariot. And that person, I recall, said to me, "You fell short by 14. And then I heard the sound, election results, election results. And the election result was that Hensley Daniel has won by 14 votes. Naturally, I was stunned. I was stunned because I had a handsome lead going into Cox. I was stunned because this senior policeman had been calling me all night with the correct results from the counting box, from the counting station. And if he was right all night, how come on the last box he's wrong? I remember seeing him on the Sea Bridge weeks later and saying to him, "Boy, what went wrong? All night you're right. The one box that's supposed to count the most, you went wrong." And he said to me, all he can say is when he went outside, that was the final count. When he got back inside, he heard I lose by 14. He don't know what happened. I believe it was Papa Wheeler who then sang about the fox in the Cox box. And all of us understood that some skullduggery happened. You see, even with the unconscionable wicked act of removing all of those people from the voters list, nearly the whole of Cane Garden was removed. A number of divisions were removed. Even in the face of that, they still could not beat me. And so, whatever they did in the counting station, my victory was snatched from me. Defeat snatched from the jaws of victory. Ably assisted by those who were corrupt and engaged in corrupt activity. And that is why I have parted company with some of them. Just how our God Jehovah threw Satan out of heaven. Said, "Lucifer, kick him out." I had to kick out some of them out of CCM. Let them go. And whilst I am here, they will not come back. Because that level of betrayal is unconscionable. And so I did what I thought was right. Spoke to my party leader at the time, the Honorable Vance Emery. And Vance said, "Let us leave the matter alone. Let us leave the matter alone." I said, "No." It's one of the only times that I can recall that I did not agree with what he had to tell me as my leader. I said, "No." I said, "You win your seat." And Alexis Jeffers, my brother, he won his seat in St. James. I lost my seat by 14 votes with 14 spoiled ballots and 203 of my supporters off the list and of Black Fox in that Cox box. I said no. And I went. I assembled a legal team, one of the most formidable legal teams that we have seen. I reached out to Douglas Mendes from Trinidad. I reached out to Keith Lake from Anguilla. I reached out to my brother Dane Hamilton of blessed memory from Antigua. Brian Barnes, then a young lawyer, Daniel Brantley. And they joined that effort, that crusade. And we brought an election petition. Election petitions are famous in the Caribbean for their failure rate. I believe that if we look across the cases brought in the Caribbean, less than 5% of them succeed. And that election petition succeeded. We won. Hensley Daniel and his seat were declared null and void. Costs were awarded. And the NRP did not accept the verdict, you know. The then Premier Joseph Parry, he decided he would appeal. Well, he went up to the Court of Appeal. And 3 judges tell them again, go sit down. Null and void. Then they had no choice. They had to call election. Rather than calling a by-election, only in St. John's, which was the seat at issue, Mr. Parry in his wisdom decided on call fresh general elections in 2013. And we gave them a licking of their lifetime. Boop, boop in the solar plexus. So the people of Nevis said, enough is enough. And we don't like thieves. We do not like corrupt individuals. And if you cannot appeal to the electorate with your ideas, do not come and try to steal any election in Nevis. They punish them. And we had that stain in our political history because for the first time we had that level of impropriety in our electoral process, that democracy itself was rendered a mockery. And a man who claimed that he had won an election, when the court examined, the court said, no, you know with nothing. Null and void. When they went up and begged the Court of Appeal, look at it please, the Court of Appeal said, null and void. Go back to the people. And when we went back to the people with those whose names had been removed, now re-enfranchised, the people voted overwhelmingly for the Concerned Citizens Movement and sent us to govern their affairs. Rather than leaving it alone, as the Honorable Vance Amory had said to me, through those efforts, the Honorable Vance Amory was Premier again in 18 months. And Nevis was once again set on the right path, a path of decency, a path of righteousness, a path of constitutional propriety. Say what you want about me. Somebody told me recently, oh, you've grown old and tired now. I'm not so old and I'm not so tired. But say what you want about me. Mark Brantley fought for the people of this island to have their right to vote. A right that was won by the sweat and blood and tears and agony of our ancestors. I fought to have that right preserved. My party fought to have that right preserved. The Concerned Citizens Movement fought to have that right preserved. And I say all that to say this. I don't want to hear a thing from NRP about electoral irregularity. NRP is the very definition of electoral irregularity. You can't tell me that you thief an election and get declared null and void and come back to lecture decent people, Hebrew boys and girls, about electoral irregularity. No, NRP. Let somebody else talk about that, not you. You do not have the moral authority to lecture anybody about electoral irregularity. Not after what you did to the people of Nevis. Not after what you did to Cane Garden and the residents up there. You have no authority. So please hush. That's the best thing you can do, is hush. And if there are people who are deceased, for example, on the list, just go through the process, make the objection, and get their names off. But don't try to lecture anybody or write speeches or make snide remarks because you are not qualified. And the irony of it is that they never once come back to Nevis and say sorry. Not one of them. I hear Hensley Daniel now, they say he's a deacon in the church, and I don't really want to say too much about Hensley because Hensley's political career is dead. And in politics, you let the dead bury the dead. But I hear him now have all kinds of views to express about me. Nobody ever declared me null and void. If you're listening, Hensley, you and you alone have that burden to carry. You and you alone have that shame to carry. Because for you, power was more important than principle. That was what was important to you. Holding on to power. And to hell with those people if they can't vote. Forgive my language, but I'm passionate about this. It doesn't matter if they can't vote. Once I could get back in there by any means necessary. I hear now that you are the people's warden in the church. I wish you well. Because I recall that Saul, on his way to Damascus, became Paul. And what I take away from that lesson in Holy Writ is that there's hope for all of us. If Saul, the persecutor of the Jews, can become Paul, then I wish you well as the people's warden. But do not lecture me, do not ever dare to lecture me about anything in relation to politics. Because you and you alone have the distinction of having been declared null and void by a court of law. Not just the High Court, but the Court of Appeal as well. Let me make that very clear. As I said, I don't usually trouble those who are politically dead. But I make the point because some of them keep coming back as if they think that people have forgotten. Well, I am here to remind our people of the things that happened in this country. And this is not ancient history, this is recent history. So I believe those who now say they're walking in the path of God, walk in the path of God. It's a good path. It's a path that I hope in the fullness of time that I too may be able to walk. But don't walk in that path and at the same time keep attacking decent people. When you have that, because listen now, history will be written. History will be written, and when the history is written, the question is, what will the history say? And the history will recount that it was a dark and terrible day, a dark and terrible period in the history of Nevis, when the NRP did that to their own divisions. Down in Cox, I saw one lady cry. I won't call her name. Quiet woman from Cox. From Cox. She came there with her ID and she bawled like a child when they told her that she could not vote because her name was not on the voters list. And while she was there and could not vote and was crying, in the line to vote was an NRP supporter who lived abroad. But prior to going abroad was from the St. James area. Registered in the line, laughing, come to vote. But a woman born in Cox, raised in Cox, living in Nevis, was denied the right to vote in Cox because her name had been removed from the voters list. She cried like a child. I will never forget that as long as I live. So sometimes when people ask me, well, what still motivates you after all these years? One of the things that motivates me is to make sure that I keep vagabonds. I keep vagabonds out of office. One of the things that motivates me is I try my best to keep foxes out of the hen house. We don't want no more fox and cocks. We don't want any more. We want the people of Nevis to be able to go to the polls and to have confidence that they have selected the candidates of their choice. They have voted for the government of their choice. That's what we want. And based on what we have seen, the only party that has ever afforded the people of Nevis that in our recent political history is the Concerned Citizens Movement. The only one. And I challenge anybody out there to dispute that. Some like to say every time they lose, oh, they cheat, they thief the election. You can say what you want. But the only documented case that we have where evidence was presented in a court of law and the result was that a candidate and his victory were declared null and void, not only by the High Court but also by the Court of Appeal, was the Nevis Reformation Party. Not a soul else it ever happened to. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, because those are the facts. So don't come lecture anybody about electoral irregularity. Hush him out. Let some other body talk, because to this day the NRP has never apologized. Those 203 in St. John's, those in St. Paul's, those hundreds in St. James, they've never apologized to the people of Nevis for what they did, all in a bid to force themselves onto the people, to force themselves onto the people. You see me? I believe in democracy. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But you can't change the rules to suit yourself. You can't change the rules and try to fix the game. The people who do that are people who are inherently dishonest. And that is the reality. And so those now who were Saul's and proclaim themselves now to be Paul's, God bless you. I wish you all the best on your journey. But anytime you exhibit those Saul-like qualities again, and I'm around, I will remind you of the shame that you brought on this little island that we love called Nevis. The shame that the political party called the NRP brought on this little island called Nevis. And I keep saying to our people, do not forget. Because many of them, they now come with all kind of sweet words dripping from their lips. Venom for the CCM. Newfound love for the people of Nevis. Newfound propriety. But where was that propriety? Who was there to say, no, this is wrong? Not one of them. You know why? All of them had their snouts in the trough. All of them were happy. And none of them wanted the will of the people to prevail. And so if they can't win it, they decide they're going to thief it. And that's exactly what happened. So I just want to set that record straight. I lived it. I have the facts at the forefront of my mind. And it was a terrible, terrible period in the history of Nevis, caused by greed and corrupt men and women who, in their desperate lust for power, decided that they would disenfranchise their own Nevisian brothers and sisters. They would disenfranchise our brothers and sisters from Guyana and elsewhere who lawfully and legally had the right to vote. Imagine the level of, I don't have a word for it, but nastiness. Imagine the level of nastiness that you would go into a community and pretend that there's some government program to get the people's names, only then to take those names to the electoral office and say, take off them there. In fact, I had a joke, you know. I went into Cane Garden one time and I was talking to a fellow there, a resident there, and I tell him, I know you're an NRP supporter, you know. He said, how you could say that, boss? I said, because your name didn't come off. You were one of the only ones in Cane Garden whose name did not come off the list. That means they know you support them. And he started to laugh. That is what we came to. You had a situation in this Nevis here where a permanent secretary demanded of a Guyanese woman that in order for her to get her necessary papers to regularize her presence in Nevis, she must take a picture of her ballot to prove that she voted for the NRP. Y'all think we forget these things? The poor woman was dropped by an NRP activist to the Ivor Walters school, which was the polling station. She went in, and my poll agent, Sherry Ann Walwyn at the time. Sherry, sorry to call your name, but your name going to be in the history books. Sherry Ann Walwyn heard the click of the camera. I guess the lady did not put the camera on silent. I don't know how these things work. But the phone, the click. And when we investigated, the lady had taken a picture of her ballot. The police were called. And we saw, my agents saw, the people there saw, the police saw. The X was made for the NRP. When the police had taken away this poor woman, the woman called out for the activists who had brought her. He said, "Do not call me name. I know you're not. I know you're not." And the poor lady was brought down to the police station. You know what happened to that poor woman? The NRP arranged in quick order for her to be deported to Guyana. And in quick order, the photo miraculously disappeared from the phone. And it was on this very show that the lady called in from Guyana, because it then started this story that the lady voted for me. She called in to clear the air and to tell us exactly what happened. Now imagine, I go back to the word. It is inelegant, but it's the only word I can come up with right now. Imagine the nastiness that you will require of people, that they break the law by taking a photo of their ballot in order for those people to have their status in Nevis regularized. You hold them at ransom. You hold them in their throat. At ransom. These are the things that happen here in Nevis. You all think that this is some Nancy story? Maybe there's some new voters now who might have been children then, and they don't quite appreciate the level of corrupt behavior that was engaged in. But imagine saying to a poor woman, in order to get your papers, you must go in there and prove who you vote for. And when the woman got caught, they get the woman out of here so fast they didn't want her to say a word. They deport the woman to Guyana. That's what they did. Brothers and sisters, I could go on and on and on. Let us not forget. It's important that we do not forget. I have a lot more to say, but it is 9 o'clock. Let me open the lines. In the event that there's anyone out there who may want to speak to us, the numbers are 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. We are prepared to take your calls on anything that I've said or anything new that you wish to add. Those are the numbers to call. While we wait for the phones to ring, I, as I said, had my press conference yesterday, my monthly press conference. And during that press conference, I was able to share with the general public and with the press some information about some revenue numbers that we had got from the Tourism and Development Levy. Something that is a good reference point to determine how the tourism season is going. And I use as a reference point the fact that the proceeds in January 2025 from that tax were about 502,000 EC dollars. The tax was increased thereafter to 3%. It was 2%. It was increased by 1 percentage point. And so that was reflected in the numbers for 2026 January, where there was some $764,000, I think it was, earned from that tax. So it went from 502 to 764. Then, February. In 2025, that February number was $320,000 or thereabouts. February 2026, that number jumped by over $400,000 to $774,000. Over 100% increase in the amount collected. Now, those are only 2 months to be sure. But that just that snapshot shows that our revenue has grown by some 40+% for the month of January, year over year, and by over 100% for the month of February, year over year. Now, let me hasten to say that is not overall revenue, that is only revenue from one tax. But I think it's an excellent indicator of how our tourism sector has been performing thus far in our peak months. I'm prayerful that God will continue to allow us to prosper. Because every visitor who comes, who spends on taxis and tours and lunches and dinners and wine and cigars and entertainment and hikes and whatever else they do, means that our people are earning and that our economy is growing. And so I welcome news like that because I think it is a beautiful snapshot, and I continue to provide that necessary information to the people of Nevis so that you are aware, obviously, of when we are falling short, but you're also aware of when policies are bearing fruit. Again, the numbers to call are 869-469-1616 or 869-469-1700. We're taking your calls on those numbers, and let's go to the phones now and say good evening. You're on the mark.
Matt, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Matt, I want to know the Mundu track. What the Mundu track made for?
What it made for?
Yeah.
Running. Athletics.
For running.
Athletics.
For athletics.
Yes.
Matt, the track now for athletics.
What is it for?
Stop telling me so, man. The track for football, for walkers, for runners, for everybody. Fantastic track when we got the children, them on the track practicing. The children there on the track practicing. You got people kicking football. And the children there them for practice.
Uh-huh.
And they got the walkers there on the track. The track is for everything. Just stop telling people the track is for athletics. Because the children them is not getting the track to use. Track full. You go out there, you see track full, and you still go out there go kick football. That children are riding bicycles on the track.
Well, children should not be riding bicycle on the track. But remember, caller, the infield was designed initially for football as well.
Oh, for football.
The infield. Because we had a football pitch. When the track was... Caller, hold on a second for me, please. When the track was designed, the infield, that is the grassed area, was designed to accommodate football. But certainly nobody should be riding any bicycles on that track. So if people are doing it, I'm asking them to stop that, because that is not something that is allowed and something that should be done. So if parents If you have your children going over there, they should not be riding bicycles on that track.
Okay, Mark. Mark, when they kick the football and the football get on the pitch with the children, they're running. If the children they get damaged, who's standing?
Well,
They're in the middle of the field on the grass.
Yeah.
Yes. And they will kick the ball. The ball getting out on the pitch and the children them on the pitch running.
All right. Well, that is a management issue. So I would hope, caller, that people who are there and who are managing those events would control that. If I'm understanding you correct, that is happening because people are out there practicing. The children are using the track to practice. The footballers are using the infield to practice. I don't see that the two cannot coexist. They just have, of course, to be careful.
Mark, it obvious out there. It's obvious. The track full and people coming one walk, do walking. One come do kick football and the children them there. Track full right now. That is what everybody in the eyes to see the track full with children exercise. This is sports season. Give the children them the track. Why they want to come and use up the track and what the children them must do? Let the children stop running and let them use the track for walk and kick ball.
All right. Well, I hear you clearly. Thank you very much for that. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Grateful for that. As I said, the track was designed for multiple uses. The track, of course, is for athletes. For walking, for exercise it's used as well, but also for the athletes to practice. And then certainly this is sports season now for the athletes to run. The infield was designed naturally for the field events, but also for football. And we have had football over there from time to time. If I'm understanding this caller correctly, it looks like footballers are there practicing while youngsters are also practicing on the track. And so I would encourage people to be responsible. I say it a lot. A lot of problems could be avoided if we conduct ourselves responsibly. Having said that, the caller is also suggesting that people are riding bicycles on the track. That is a no-no. That is not allowed. And so, parents, if you're carrying your children there with a bicycle, or children, young people, if you are hearing me, please do not ride your bicycle on the track. You can ride your bicycles all around the field. There's a lot of space over there, but do not carry the bicycles on the track because the bicycle wheels can mark up the track, and that can lead to problems for us. Let's go back to the phones. It is 10 minutes past the hour of 9 o'clock, and you're on the mark. Good evening. Hello?
Good night.
Yes, good evening to you.
And good night to all your listeners. Sorry, I'm in the press conference.
Well, I'm not hearing you so clearly. Could you try say something again? Let me hear you.
Yeah, me said that me sorry me miss your press conference yesterday.
Okay. Now I can hear you. Thank you. Well, it's always on YouTube. You know, you could go back and listen.
No, me not on social media.
Oh, okay.
We try keep off for right now because me need to get my head clear up. Too much.
All right.
But me hear the advertisement, but me just get him wrong. Me got on for Tuesday, but that Tuesday coming, but that Tuesday that gone. Okay, no problem. Me miss that. So me can't even nothing about that. Anyway, me hear your opening remark. But me need to ask one or two questions.
Sure.
On your opening remark.
Sure.
You said on election day that the NRP supporters go around and jail people on election day?
I told you what I observed in Cox.
Premier Brantley, well, me don't know how I rules, but on election day, no, you don't even supposed to go and gather in.
Caller,
you don't even...
Caller, let me correct you, okay?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that I run enough elections to know how elections work. People gather because people are in the line to go and vote. Okay? When people are in the line to go and vote, people sometimes say things to each other when they're in the line.
It's not supposed to be.
Well, I understand it may not
So
supposed
that's
to
one
be.
charge.
But I'm just letting you know. When the last election that was held here, I was in Cox to vote. And a gentleman came there with a pickup truck. They were setting up whatever they were setting up for NRP. I never troubled the gentleman. I'm there to vote. He started to lambaste me. I had to call on the police.
And what the police do?
The police made him move along. Right? So you can say what you wish to say. I am telling you what I observed. Right?
Well, yeah, that way you observe, but
Right.
for me that not the rules, not unless I rules different, me know that I want violation. Because me know up here, that they, and that they take place, me know that I want jack before the court.
Okay, caller. Tell
Right.
me.
Okay, so let me move on from that because that nothing. Okay. You say, can me just say little what you say, and then they go to some more tougher question. The liars and name that you call out, that are high powered liars, man. You pull them, man.
Well, a high-powered case needs high-powered lawyers.
Wow. So, Mr. Brantley, that for the name that me call, man, a couple dollars. Well, you trying to the case, eh?
But you didn't throw
Anyway.
any, so that's not a matter for you. So don't worry about that. Go ahead.
Well, you're gonna see little later on when we start to think, you know, why me pick you up on that day. Anyway, you know how to answer. You know how to answer that. So you may say like Satan can correct things. Because Satan is a sinner, so he can correct things.
He's the author of sin.
Yes. Yeah. You're supposed to be your heart. You know, you're supposed to live for the Lord, you know.
All of us should.
Yeah.
You too.
And then, because after you done do the preaching, you still come back and lambaste. Anyway, tell me something now, because Satan can correct sin, so that may one sin. So tell me about one box that getting more X's than the voters. You know about that?
No, I don't know about any box having more X's than the voters. Tell me about it.
Now, constituency number 2,
When that happened?
last election,
Never happened.
never happened.
No.
So nothing go so.
There was, and it was explained by the electoral officials. There was an error on the when the votes are made. There is a tally sheet, and there was an error on the tally sheet. That is what led to the error, that there was not the error, but the view that there was a discrepancy between the number of ballots and the count. When they reviewed it and they realized what the problem was, in fact, the agent for the NRP was there, the agent for the CCM was there, and the what do they call now? The presiding officer was there, and the supervisor of elections was involved. And they ultimately found out why there was the discrepancy. It was an error on the notation. There was no more votes in any box. That is not what happened at all. That
the
is
tally sheet.
the tally sheet was in error. So it was something about where the person should have said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go down to say 15. And then the next they should go 16. They went back again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down to 15. Something of that nature. Right?
Okay.
So an explanation, but no, this is important because an explanation was given by the electoral officials. And agents for both political parties were there.
Okay.
So that is simply not the case.
Okay. All right. So let me move on.
Yes.
Right.
You say you had some hard questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I will come to the poultry farm now.
Yeah.
What the progress on that?
Well, I gave a report. You said you missed the press conference, but based on what I'm told, the construction is ongoing. I have not, I must confess, gone there to see it myself, but they are providing weekly reports now, and the indication is that the construction, so actual physical construction has started. And so I gave that report yesterday.
Okay. Back to the last press conference. Not this, because me tell me not hear this one. The other one. The man that the individual that introduced you said that this year will be our successful year on every front. So then and therefore, are we gonna get the poultry farm for this year?
Well, I confess that I don't recall what the time frame is for completion, but certainly I would like to see it finished this year. If the construction is well on its way already, then I'm hopeful, because the construction technique that they're using, they said should be quicker than the usual technique. So I'm hopeful that we can get it this year. But I will try to get what the estimated time is, because I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay. Let me move on to the destiny, the paper that you send on for Dr. Josiah. How that come on?
We have not yet had any formal response from the federal government. We would have written to the federal government on the 23rd of December, indicating that the version of the agreement was, we were comfortable with it, and it is for them now to look at it. We have not yet had a formal response. We do know that sometime towards the end of January, the Attorney General wrote asking for certain information that we provided to them. They had that already, but we provided it to them in the format that they wanted it. And thereafter, we have heard that the federal government has appointed one committee, they say, to look at the SSZ legislation, and another committee, they say, to look at the agreement. So far, it's now been 2 months, just over. Today's what, the 25th? And we have not yet had a response in terms of what the position is. So that is where matters now stand.
Okay, that are the answer that me actually want. When you say then provide one committee to look at it. Now, Premier Brantley, you not got a problem? You not got a problem with that?
Do I have a problem with what? That they have a committee looking at it?
Yes, with you send one paper down there, and now them go get one committee to look over what you send down there before that they can sign. You know, got a problem with that?
Well, it is for the federal government to do what the federal government thinks they need to do. My concern is that these committees should not delay the process. Because if the process is delayed, one can lose an investment, one can lose an investor simply by process of delay. So I am not concerned that they decided to appoint a committee. They could appoint 100 committees if that is their desire. My concern is that these committees should not delay a project that is slated for Nevis, that has been signed off on by the government of Nevis. The government of Nevis has been elected by Nevisians to look after the interests of Nevis. So the federal government has their role to play. How they play that role is a matter for them. I am simply saying that time is important, and we cannot allow this to just drag and drag and drag because you have committee after committee after committee. This is where I think decisions need to be taken, and we have heard the arguments. In fact, no project has had the level of public consultation and engagement like this one has had. We had a series of stakeholder meetings in Nevis. We had a series of letters and various position papers that were sent to us. And each time we took on board the ideas, the suggestions that we thought we could take on board, and we went back and we negotiated and we renegotiated, and we finally got to a place where we felt comfortable enough to say, all right, let's go. So, if
but Premier Brantley, hear the problem.
Yes.
Hear the problem. Does the citizens of Nevis know why you send down there for Dr. Josiah?
The citizens of Nevis do not know. As yet, the citizens of Nevis do not know.
They know the details. They know the details why you send to
hold on. You asked me a question. Let me answer you.
Yeah.
The citizens of Nevis do not know as yet. But recall that this is only part of the process. The process also requires that this agreement must go to the Parliament, which means that it must become a public document. And so whilst we are still at an earlier stage in the process, the citizens of Nevis will know what is in those documents because the documents will be made public.
Okay, all right.
And let me add, no development in the history of Nevis in the past has ever had agreements made public. None.
Okay. Then I mean, I'll go down the road. Let me just deal with this particular subject.
Those are just the facts.
But here you know, Premier Brantley. Now you send that day to the Prime Minister. Now the Prime Minister now I go get a committee to go look over him to say whether yes or no. When I not them, I live with the project and the people of Nevis. I live with the project. You never look into the part there? So the Prime Minister and some other people when they're Nevis are gonna make one decision. No, for the people of Nevis and the people of Nevis, none of the details. That doesn't sound funny to you?
Caller, I'm not sure what it is that is particularly funny because that is the framework of the law. And so we can say whether we like it or we don't like it, but that is the framework of the law. There are several things that happen. Do you know sometimes the Nevis Island government wants to borrow money for projects in Nevis and it requires the federal government to sign off?
Yeah, me know, but okay. That's a different case.
Well, why is it a different case?
No, it's a completely different case.
No, hear my point. It is very similar because based on the legal framework, there are some matters that require some sign-off in Bastille. And we may not agree with it, we may not like it, but that is the legal framework. Okay,
me pose this question here to Mr. Ellenborough. You know a man, don't think it's Mr. Ellenborough?
I've heard the name.
Yeah, he was an advisor to the Premier, to the Prime Minister.
Yes.
Sorry. And he said, Mr. Ellenborough, as one advisor, Premier Brantley said that the excavator and the truck and all them, they up there waiting, they're ready for go. Could you talk to the thing and speed up the process that Premier Brantley can get going up there? He said, if he tell me to tell you, if you want to get going, just take the project out of the SSZ and go ahead and do the project. But as long as in the SSZ, you're gonna have to wait.
That's what he tell you to tell me?
Yes. Okay. So me deliver the message.
And let me ask you, what you said the man's name?
Mr. Ellenborough, but me call he Dr. Ellenborough.
I never.
To tell.
But I don't recall anybody like that ever being on a ballot paper in Nevis.
Remember, let me give somebody else one chance and me come back.
Well, but you say you had some hard question, me still wait.
Well, more to ask about the airport, how the airport coming on.
Oh, okay. You really need to listen to the press conference then, because you asked me things that the reporter don't ask and don't answer yesterday.
Well, as me tell you, you see, up front.
I heard you. But the airport project is progressing apace. We've had meetings, I was advised today, with the fishermen in Newcastle about the plans to relocate them. We are very, very close now in terms of final designs and all of that. A lot of work has been happening. We are now finalizing the offices for the consultants. They're going to have an office on site. So the testing for the soil testing, all of those results are now back in, and designs are obviously going to be impacted by those. We have done some preliminary clearing already to allow access. The surveys have been done. The surveyors were here and spent 2 weeks, I think, on island. All that report was given, as I said. So yeah, the project is moving. It's not as fast as I would like, because I would like it finished already, but certainly the project is moving.
Okay, me understand that one of your main funder, Mr. Jai or me not know the name exactly, but you know, Mr. Jai or something, supposed to be one of your main funder.
Yes, and
me on the right path.
What you understand, but that has been publicly disclosed more than once. So
right, but me understand that in a financial difficulties.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand.
So,
I understand that. I don't
you know, understand that in a financial difficulty?
No, I don't know where that understanding has come from.
Okay, pick up your phone and Google Mr. Dry and the financial difficulties and see what
Google that. Caller, let me ask you something. The last time I checked Mr. Dry, he was worth $12 billion. What financial difficulties mean for a man who's worth $12 billion? I'm just curious.
He worked
He's
12 billion.
Yes.
But the point about it,
I'm asking you, why you feel when you say a man who's worth 12 billion is in financial difficulties? What does that look like in your opinion?
why look? Not my opinion. Not because he worth that. Not because he worth 12 million. Or billion or billion,
yeah.
or whatever the case may be. In a signify that he can't be in a financial difficulty.
I'm just asking you what it means to you. You see, if a man is worth 12 billion and the man worth comes down to 7 billion from 12, he lose 5 billion, isn't it?
No, that's not the point when me want to drive. So when me put cross, me put a cross, me put a cross. This is how me want for now. If his finance still stand good with you because in a financial difficulty.
Yeah, but may I tell you that what you're saying doesn't make any sense to me. Because you have not defined what you mean by financial difficulty. If a man is worth $12 billion and he loses 5 billion, he's down to 7 billion. Some may say he's in financial difficulty. I may say he's still richer than most people in the world.
What me learn is that he not you borrow from this point to that point. So you have to borrow for cover that. So this is what me ask you.
Okay, caller. The short answer to your question is we have had no indication that there's any difficulty whatsoever insofar as the funding that has been agreed to. And if there is that difficulty, then certainly we'll come back to the people of Nevis, but we have no such information. I think that
he don't release the funds, or the funds they for come?
Well, he would not have released any funds yet, caller. The airport project has not kicked off as yet. As you realize, all that has happened is preliminary work.
You guarantee that he they for pay him?
Well, that is the agreement. I just said that.
Okay. All
right.
Let me give somebody else one chance to me come back.
Okay, please.
If I forget back.
All right. Thank you very much for that. We're taking your calls, 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. For those out there who want to say something and want to call in, please do that. My good friend who just called, he took up quite a bit of time, but I like to engage with him. He has, in fact, one of my friends in the D.C. area said that he loves when he calls in because it's a funny exchange. He always enjoys the exchange. And this is what this show tries to do. We have hopefully good conversations. We test views and opinions as they are expressed. And we hope by so doing we benefit those who are listening. Let's go back to the phones. It is 9:30. You're on the mark.
Yes, good night, Mr. Brantley.
Good night to you.
Mr. Brantley, you remember I asked you for a light and the post up in Hickman, the boy Miss Door? May not get it yet to know, Mr. Brantley?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, let me scribble a note here. You remember the poll number?
No, me not remember the number.
Okay.
But it's right there where you been come the time?
Yes. Hickman's. Okay. All right. Let me call Nevlik in the morning on it, okay?
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Good. Ladies and gentlemen, this is On the Mark. We're taking your calls at 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Those are the numbers to call if you'd like to be a part of the show. Now, as I said, there is a lot happening. The caller called about the airport. I was able to provide an update there. On the geothermal project, I can advise that my information is that we have signed the necessary drilling contract and have sent that to the selected driller. It is for them now to look at it. Some conversations are ongoing, and I'm optimistic that we could come back to you in short order to say that we have a concluded agreement. Once that is the case, then we get down now to the question of mobilization, and then we'll have some timelines. But let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're on the mark. No? Caller, please call back in. 869-469-1616. 869-469-1700. Let's try this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you.
I'm just wanted to know if there's any update on fixing the Long Point Road, which is getting really destroyed compared to the big trucks that are driving on the road.
No update. That is not a project that we have slated at this point. We are concentrating on some other projects. I agree with you that that road needs to be upgraded. It has existed for quite some time, but we do not have that on the cards for the immediate future. We have some other roads that are in pretty bad condition in certain neighborhoods that we're trying to get to first. So what we're asking you is to bear with us. Please drive carefully on the road. You are right that a lot of big trucks traverse that road from the port, etc. So it has taken a beating, but we still think that it is still may have a little life left in it. So we are hopeful that motorists would bear with us as we try to focus on some neighborhoods where they do not have proper roads at all and try to fix their problems for them.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're most welcome, caller. Thank you for the call. We continue to take your calls. We have about 35 minutes left in the show. Of course, at 10 o'clock, the show is over. And so if you have something to say, this is a good time to call in and to say it. Let's go back to the phones. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Good evening, Honorable Mac. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Good evening to you.
All right. I have a question to ask you. Who does do your road in Nevis and Sinkit?
So in Nevis, most of the roads now are being done by us. That is by our Public Works Department. The reason for that is that this government, I'm quite proud, we have invested significantly in equipment. We bought a brand new paver. We bought a brand new milling machine. We have backhoes. We have excavators. And in addition, we have spent money on training for our people. We have an asphalt plant that we invested in, and we have sent workers from the asphalt plant as recently as I think last year. They went to, I believe it is in Kentucky, to train in terms of asphalt and producing good quality asphalt. So the roads that you see in the main in Nevis are done by the Public Works. Now, where Public Works is busy and doesn't have the capacity, we have used private contractors, and one such private contractor we've used in the past is a Jamaican company called Surrey Paving. In St. Kitts, my understanding is that they use their Public Works as well. They have used others. I know there's a company there called Rock and Dirt. They have done work. But I can also tell you that where some of the work was recently done in the Monkey Hill area and places like those in St. Kitts, that they asked and we lent them our equipment and manpower that went over and assisted them to construct those roads in St. Kitts. So it demonstrates that our guys are good enough that St. Kitts is actually calling on them. And the fact that we had new equipment, we were able to lend our equipment to St. Kitts and to lend our men as well to them to do the roads over there. So that is what we're doing now in terms of roads and Nevis.
So as you tell me, you just send away some of the guys them that they can learn to use the equipment for the roads. Send them away that they can learn and come back.
Yes, we are always engaged in training for our guys. Absolutely. In fact, I think, if I may add, some of our guys also went to Barbuda to help them in Barbuda. So, you know, people around the region have recognized that we have top quality people here on Nevis.
Yeah, because, you know, I have some people who does visit Nevis, and I had a guy came back and he tell me that, man, Jojak, man, Nevis Road is so nice, and the place is so good. I mean, why is it so? Because sometimes when you listen to some people speak on the on radios and speak about Nevis seeing this, nothing going on, and people who visit the country could come back and say how the place is so nice, they want to go back up there again. And you know, we down here have some road issue, and the way they do the road, they don't do the road properly as they will fill they hold them, don't put no oil in the pot. Extra toes rain come down the road gone bad again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I asked you the information. If you all just bring in people to fix the road, because we need the same thing happening here, also in the BVI.
No, we don't bring in people to fix roads anymore. We have capacity that we have built, capacity that we continue to invest in, and I'm very big on our own people. And again, it is one of the big differences between us in government and the other guys in government, because when the other guys were in government, the premier then said that these fellows in public works did not know what they were doing, and he couldn't trust them to go and do any roads. We said we must invest in our people, so we have trained our people, we have bought equipment, given them the proper tools, and the roads speak for themselves. I will tell you, caller, that I had some business persons from Curacao who were here, and I took them around the island on Sunday morning. And I was shocked when they said to me that the roads in Nevis were better than those in Curacao. They said that they couldn't believe the quality of roads that they were driving on. I felt very proud. We went off-road, we went to various villages, we went through Donghanley's Road, and they were amazed when I said to them that these roads were built by us. So you're absolutely correct. Sometimes, the people hear the things that some of them say. They would call night day and they call day night. But the reality is something very different. So that is where we are here. I think it is a demonstration of what happens when government has confidence in its people. And that is what we have done.
And I like what you say, that people also does come and want to use your guys. You send the guys them to other places, and that's very good. That's to show that they're doing very good work, that they can go other places and get jobs. And I feel good about that. Now, I have to say about listening to the lady speak about the youngsters them on the track. And I like what you said, that the guys in there playing soccer and the youngsters them running on the track. Rachel said no bicycle shouldn't be riding on the track. Who in charge of the recreation ground should look into that and make sure a lot of things shouldn't be taking place on the track where a lot of money is spending on the track. Which I agree with the guys them playing soccer. The place was built for them to play soccer on.
Mm-hmm.
That's for me. And the walkers them, I don't know, but I don't see no problem with the guys in there practicing soccer. The problem is the youngsters riding bike on the expensive track, which you have to protect at all times. But I'm here listening, and which I'm glad when people visit the island and come back and say how lovely Nevis is. They want to go back. They just come and tell me that. And which I'm glad when you give me the information about the road and who does do the road, and I feel nice about that. Because we need to do the same thing here in the BVA. Send away a lot of the young guys that they can learn how to fix the road and know what is getting done. They need to spend money on the young guys. But
so who builds your roads in the BVI? I'm curious.
Well, we have a guy with his call. Actually, we have a company which do the road. But no one don't come in. Only had a paving company in St. Thomas just come up here and do the road. But the road don't stand up. Serious. Who want to listen to me speaking about the road don't stand up? So my thing is what you said. The young guys them need to get sent away and know what to do, how to build road, and how to use equipment. I think it has some equipment that they don't have to learn how to use them on the road. I think they will done well because they put a lot of pride in doing the work. It's all about serious in doing what you're doing in the honorable. And also when you make the young guy them feel comfortable, they're getting paid. Paid is a problem too, honorable.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they mean getting paid properly, it means put in the work. And that's what the youngsters them know all about, talking about overtime, getting paid overtime and all of them things. So that push them once they gain overtime money, they're willing to work. But if they mean getting overtime money, they mean want to work. And that's what they spoil everything.
Well, I think training, investing in equipment, we have done. Training, we have done. And I think the roads that you see in Nevis are evidence of that. So thanks for the call, and I hope that, they can get it right, because good roads are important. Good infrastructure is important, and we have spent a lot of money in Nevis upgrading our infrastructure over the years. Whether it's electricity, water, roads, we have definitely spent a lot upgrading.
Okay. Thank you for taking my call. I always listen.
All right.
Every Wednesday. Okay.
Thank you very much, caller. All the very best. We have about 17 minutes left. We are taking your calls. 869-469-1616 and 869-469-1700. Let's go straight back to the phones and take this call. Good evening, caller. You're on the mark.
Yes, good night, Honorable Brantley.
Good evening, my friend. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm going to read my scripture now from Psalm 91, and I'm reading verse 1 to 7. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and fortress. My God is Him. My God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snares of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Here ended the reading of the scripture. May the Lord add His richest blessings unto it. And have a good night.
Thank you very
God
much.
bless you.
Thank you, and God bless you as well. Thank you for the scripture. All right. Somebody just reached out to me, listening in the United States, who said that there was some buffering. There were some issues on the line. They said that the intro ad keeps somehow coming into the conversation. So I'm hopeful that that can be rectified. Please forgive us. It may be just a buffering issue. We're hoping that it's nothing more than that. So let's go back to the phones and keep trying. Good evening. You're on the mark.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Brantley.
Good evening to you.
I have 3 reviews. I'll talk about the ambulance. Mr. Brantley, you see the roundabout? When the ambulance are blown, you could hear it sometime he left out by the hospital. If you unround to the roundabout, just pull over. That's all you got to do, just pull over. Some people stop, but if the ambulance coming from Gingerland, you cannot say where. If you cannot say where the ambulance going, because look at the roundabout, you got 4 places that you think, man, the vehicle is still a pass. And my thing is that it does bother me because when I look through the restaurant window, you could see the ambulance. The ambulance like you don't even know which way to go because the people and they would not pull over. And let me tell you something, one day it's going to be somebody who's something to us are very close and the ambulance can't get to pass and then you're going to start to cost the ambulance people. Number 2, you see the road? You see the people, they guys and them on the road early morning time and cleaning the road. Mr. Brantley, up to about 8 o'clock. Paper all over the place. Paper all over the place. All in a tongue, all in Charlestown. It don't bother me. It just bother me, Mr. Brantley, because I said it got bins. And if you got your garbage, hold your garbage until you find a bin, and put the bin in a. We having a lot of tourist ship coming in and people coming up, and you see all them big piece of plastic and paper and all the canting all over the road. When you're going over to Long Point again, right, they either need to tie down the garbage or whatever, because them a fella and a wife just clean cross there. I go cross a lot, I have my grandchildren over there. And when you're passing, you take clean all in the morning, about 8 o'clock. The garbage up and down all the place. What do you try and keep the country clean? When you got all your garbage and things, hold them until you see a bin or something. And then some people again who they kind of depends on the day. You got a jump. Go along down at TDC, Harsford, they got them big canvas thing down the roll up and thing. Ask them a piece. Tie on your garbage bin to a tree, kind of people got tree near their yard, and put something and cover them. It just hurt me when I see them. They're not keeping the place clean, and it bother me. And whenever I talk, and then when they see me, they say, only you want to keep your place clean. That is not the point, Mr. Brantley. It's just keeping the country clean. Because everybody is supposed to get a bin. If you're not going to bin, get a plastic bag. If you're not going to plastic bag, get wherever you could get. And tie up your garbage in there because everybody know when the garbage bin are passed. Have a good evening.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think you've raised 2 very important points. And I know you, I know how passionate you are about these things. You have repeatedly asked drivers to do the right thing. And when they hear the sirens of the ambulance, to pull aside. Sometimes, it seems like only if our people pay a consequence that they will learn, because as you say, that ambulance may be going for a member of your family, and it's a simple thing. Everywhere in the world, once you hear sirens, you pull aside. And so I'm hopeful that people are listening, and that the police and others will be out there doing their job. In relation to the garbage, Carl, I can't agree with you more. I try to walk sometimes at mornings, and I pick up plastic bottles and styrofoam. I have had experiences where I see styrofoam with chicken and thing in it, bones in it. Somebody eat their food and just dash it out of the car. And I know maybe this sounds offensive, but I want to know, well, if that is how you behave, how your house look. Cleanliness, they say, is next to godliness. But if you can eat your food and just dash out your container out the car as you drive, dash out your bottle as you drive, something is wrong with you. Something is wrong with you. This island is all we have. Let us take care of it. And whether you're New Vision or you live here but you come from elsewhere, it doesn't matter. Let us all take care of it. So, caller, I can't say it any better than you did. I agree with you. Let me go back to the phones and say good evening. We lost that caller. Okay, caller, please call back in, 869-469-1616 and 1700. Truly sorry that we lost you, but we would like to hear from you, and we have about 10 minutes left. Let's go back to the phones then. Good evening, you're on the mark.
Good evening, Premier.
Yes, good evening to you.
I want to first extend blessed Lent to those who are Christians and to our Muslim brothers and sisters. I say Ramadan Mubarak, as it's a period for Ramadan as well. And I know there's an Islamic society in Nevis. I want to extend to them a blessed Ramadan Mubarak. But I also want to use the opportunity, if you may permit me. I had the opportunity this evening of speaking to my Prime Minister from Jamaica on the sidelines of the discussion CARICOM is having. On Friday, they will be having a forum at Carambola, yes, for the Jamaican community that is in St. Kitts and in Nevis. And there are arrangements for the persons who want to come over from Nevis to board a boat. So about 4 of them, islander from over Wally to Carambola, and then it will take them back over. So I want to invite the Jamaican community, members of the Jamaican diaspora in Nevis, to, if they can make themselves available, to come and meet with Prime Minister Holness as we seek to engage our diaspora here in Nevis and in St. Kitts. Now, with that said, Premier, I want to commend you. I listened to your press conference, and I want to commend you in the efforts you are making in relation to moving Nevis forward. I always say, leading a country is not an easy job. Eh? It is like you are not just a father for your children. You're also a father for the nation. And I see you are taking your time in crafting a new way forward. In fact, you have been an advocate for the diaspora outside of Nevis, the diaspora in the United States and other parts of the Caribbean to come back home and contribute to their country in whatever way they can. And I believe it is indeed that was a sentiment that was echoed by Prime Minister Holness and Prime Minister Gaston Brown.
Yes.
For more persons to come home and contribute we have so many successful people amongst ourselves as Caribbean Islands that are outside in the diaspora. And instead of cussing and saying nothing go on or nothing keep, as some people would say, yeah, I believe as persons in the diaspora we have the ability to contribute. You have a large diaspora. I think you have about 5,000 people outside of Nevis.
I think even more than that. I'll be honest with you.
And so I want to encourage them that instead of joining the song and dance that some people are doing to say nothing keep, that you have the ability now to contribute, to come back home, bring some of that wealth that you have amassed outside of your country, and contribute.
Well, caller, I agree, and I was quite happy to see Prime Minister Holness making the same appeal to Jamaicans. We recognize that not everybody can come back. We recognize that some people are not ready to come back. But what I keep saying is that even if you are not in a position to physically come back, you can still invest. Absolutely. You can still build property here. One of the problems we have in Nevis, for example, is that we have a lot of abandoned properties. Yes. And the research suggests that a lot of those abandoned properties are actually owned by individuals or their families who are overseas. And it really creates a problem on the island sometimes. And I would say to them, listen, property has value. Come claim your property. The government now has put in place certain incentives to allow. In fact, we published a new policy in January of last year. We've set up an office headed by a young man called Delvin Clark. And the purpose of that office is to provide a one-stop shop for those who want to invest, those in the diaspora who want to come home, to get them their duty-free, their various concessions. We're giving duty-free on vehicles. We're giving duty-free on your household furniture. We're even giving you duty-free if you want to build a home, or if you want to build an Airbnb, whatever it may be. We want our people to engage, because I heard the Prime Minister say something, Prime Minister Drew, during his CARICOM address, his feature address. He echoed sentiments that I've heard prior, and the sentiments were that nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. And if we have to save ourselves, we recognize that Nevis has on it about 13,000 people, 13,500 according to the last census. We probably have multiple times that outside.
Yes.
So if our people outside were to say, you know what, let me lend my talent, let me lend my treasure to developing my little island, I think that we could see a paradigm shift. Because you see, caller, a lot of our people criticize foreign investment. They say they don't want no white man here, they don't want this here. And I said, well, that's all right. Well, if you don't want foreign investment, then the only thing we can do is we ourselves invest.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the country can't grow. So if we are going to decry foreign investment and say we don't want that, then the question is, are we ourselves willing to put our hands in our pocket and do what is necessary? Absolutely. I am saying the best model is to have a combination of both. Absolutely. To have local investment, foreign investment, but also have diaspora investment. I think that's three sort of streams, if you will, that we can get. Local in the sense of people living here, but also local in the sense of people who belong to Nevis but living abroad.
And you know, as I go Premier, if you look at the construction boom that is happening in Jamaica, I mean, despite the hurricane Melissa's devastation in some parts of Jamaica, before that hurricane, if you look at the major projects that were being undertaken on the private side, most of those developers or investors in persons who purchased those properties for Airbnb were persons who live in Miami, who live in New York, who live in Canada, and who live in the UK. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they are the biggest purchasers of some of these developments, and they now have, in fact, Airbnb is rivaling some of the hotels in Jamaica.
Yes, yes.
So you're right in saying that there are other ways in which you can invest, and it will all redound to the benefit of island states like ourselves. So I want to, with those few words, wish you and your government well, and I am looking forward. I actually saw Mr. Lewis, and I know you know the name, from CDB, Caribbean Development Bank. Mm-hmm. Yes, and I was commending him and thanking him for the contribution towards the geothermal project in Nevis. I am looking forward to that, because I believe it's going to be a game changer. In fact, I heard the Prime Minister in his discussion today mention that. So with those few words, I wish you well and have a good night, Premier.
Okay, my brother. Well, thank you for the call. Always appreciated. And I hope that you would call in more often and earlier, because I really enjoyed the exchange and the knowledge that you bring to the various topics at hand. This is exactly the type of conversation I feel that enlightens and elevates. So thank you very much.
All the best.
All right. Cheers to you. And that caller just indicated that Prime Minister Andrew Holness is having a meeting with Jamaicans living here, and so he's asking him to come out. Can I take this quick call and give this caller a few seconds? Caller, you're on the mark. Hello? Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Quickly, we are ending the show.
Okay. I'm a young person, right? I don't normally listen to On Demand, but I heard you talking about abandoned properties and so on. So I'm currently in the process of looking for lands, right? However, I realize that there are a lot of abandoned lands and properties around. And I have inquired about said lands and properties. But one of the issues I'm running into is that persons have either died and are not paying property taxes and so on. So it's like they are passed away and you don't know who owns the land. And I want to know what now is done, or what is the procedure for obtaining said lands and how you go about obtaining that.
Okay. All right, caller, thank you very much. Unfortunately, you've called at the end of the show. I can say that this is an important topic. We will try to address it in a subsequent show, but we're out of time. The banner struck up, it means we have to go. So I sincerely apologize to you. You have raised something very important that we'll have to talk about. That's our show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank all of the callers, particularly this last caller who raised such an important point. But we only have 2 hours and the time is up. So this show is rebroadcast tomorrow right here on Vaughan Radio at 1 p.m. And we look forward very much to engaging with you again next week, Wednesday. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the